There's a story that happened over 500 years ago that most people don't know about. A man wrote down some ideas that were so dangerous, so powerful, that people tried to erase them from history. His name was Niccolo Machiavelli, and what he discovered about human nature was this: the moment you stop trying to make everyone happy, you become impossible to control. But here's what's really wild. Around the same time, another thinker named Carl Jung was figuring out something similar about the human mind. He found that most of us wear masks every day, pretending to be someone we're not, just to keep the peace. And both of these brilliant minds came to the same scary conclusion: the world doesn't want you to be real. If you've ever been called selfish for simply wanting to make your own choices, this video is your mirror. If you've ever felt that tight feeling in your chest when someone gets upset because you said no, you're about to understand why that happens. And if you've ever wondered why being yourself feels so hard sometimes, you're about to learn something that will change everything. What I'm about to share with you has been hidden in dusty psychology books and old philosophy texts for decades. But when you understand it, you'll never see relationships the same way again. You'll understand why some people get so angry when you start being real. And most importantly, you'll finally have permission to disappoint the people who want you to stay small. But first, let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was 28 years old when she made a simple decision that changed her entire family. She decided to spend Christmas at her own apartment instead of driving 4 hours to her mom's house. That's it. No big fight, no drama, just a simple choice to stay home. Her mother didn't speak to her for 3 months. Now you might think Sarah's mom was just disappointed, but Carl Jung, the famous mind doctor, would tell you something different. Jung discovered that when someone gets extremely upset about your simple choices, it's not really about you at all. It's about something called projection. That's when people see their own hidden fears and feelings in you, like looking at themselves in a mirror they don't want to see. Sarah's mom wasn't really mad about Christmas dinner. She was terrified that Sarah was growing up and becoming her own person. Because deep down, Sarah's mom had never learned to be her own person. She had always done what others expected. And seeing Sarah make free choices reminded her of all the choices she never made. Here's where it gets really interesting. Machiavelli wrote in his famous book, The Prince, that there are two types of people in the world: those who control and those who get controlled. The controllers use guilt, anger, and disappointment to keep others in line. And the controlled ones keep giving up their freedom to avoid making others upset. But Jung found something even deeper. He discovered that each of us has what he called a shadow self. That's all the parts of who we really are that we hide because we think others won't like them. Your shadow might be your anger, your ambition, your need for space, or your desire to say no. Most people spend their whole lives pushing their shadow down, wearing a fake mask to keep everyone happy. And here's the part that might make you uncomfortable. Every time you ignore who you really are to make someone else comfortable, you're teaching them that your feelings don't matter. You're showing them that they can control you with their emotions. Machiavelli called this being too trusting, and he warned that people who are too nice often get hurt the most. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that the people who get the most upset when you set a boundary are usually the ones who benefit the most from you not having any? That's not an accident. That's strategy. And Jung would tell you that they're not even doing it on purpose most of the time. Their mind is protecting them from having to face their own stuff by making you the problem. Winnott, another brilliant mind doctor, discovered something that will blow your mind. He found that babies are born with what he called a true self. That's the real you, with all your actual feelings and needs. But if the people around that baby can't handle the real of them, the baby learns to create a false self. That's a fake version of themselves that keeps everyone happy, but slowly kills who they really are inside. Most adults are still living as that false self, and they don't even know it. They've been pretending for so long that they've forgotten who they really are. And when they see someone like Sarah being real, it scares them because it reminds them of everything they gave up. If you're still watching, hit that subscribe button, because what I'm about to tell you next will help you understand why being yourself sometimes feels like the hardest thing in the world, and it's not your fault. Melanie Klein, who studied how babies think, found something incredible. She discovered that we learn how to connect with people in our first few months of life. If your caregivers could only love the good parts of you, your mind learned that love is conditional. It learned that being real is dangerous, so you started hiding parts of yourself to stay safe. This creates what psychologists call an emotional blueprint that's broken. Your internal warning camera is always scanning for signs that people might reject you if you're too real. And that camera was installed when you were tiny, which means it's not very smart about adult situations. Here's what Machiavelli understood that most people don't. Relationships are about power. Not evil power, but the power to be yourself versus the power others have to make you pretend. Every time someone gets upset because you made a choice they don't like, they're trying to take your power away. They want you to choose their comfort over your truth. But Jung discovered something amazing. He called it individuation, which just means becoming who you really are. And he said something that might shock you. Becoming your true self will always disappoint some people. Not because you're being mean, but because your freedom reminds them of their lack of freedom. Jung actually said that the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. But here's the twist. Most people are so scared of disappointing others that they disappoint themselves instead. They spend decades being someone else's idea of who they should be. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus was 35 and had never told his father that he didn't want to take over the family business. For years, he sat through dinner conversations about the plan, feeling sick to his stomach. Finally, he found the courage to speak his truth. His father didn't talk to him for 6 months. But you know what happened next? Marcus started his own company and became happier than he'd ever been. And eventually, his father respected him more for being real than he ever had for being fake. That's what Machiavelli meant when he wrote that it's better to be feared than loved, if you can't be both. He wasn't talking about being mean. He was talking about being respected for who you really are, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. Here's your mental surgery for today. You have the right to disappoint people who want you to stay small. Your freedom is not being mean, it is your right. You didn't come into this world to be everyone's emotional support. You are not responsible for fixing what others won't face about themselves. Carl Jung said that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So when someone gets extremely upset about your simple choice, ask yourself, what are they not facing about their own life? What fear of theirs are you triggering just by being real? Machiavelli taught that being too nice makes you a target. Not because you should be cruel, but because people who refuse to set boundaries often attract people who love to cross them. Your kindness should have limits. Your generosity should have conditions. And your love should have standards. If you've ever felt guilty for wanting space, for saying no, or for choosing yourself over someone else's expectations, I need you to understand something. That guilt is not yours. Someone else put it there. It was installed in your mind when you were young and scared of losing love. But you're not that scared child anymore. You are not imagining this. There's a brain reason it feels so extreme when you start being real. Your mind has been running on an old operating system that says, keep everyone happy or you'll be abandoned. But that system is outdated. It's time for an awareness upgrade. Here's what Jung and Machiavelli both understood. Authenticity is rebellion. In a world that profits from your self-doubt, being real is a revolutionary act. When you stop pretending, you stop being controllable. When you stop being controllable, you start being free. Remember the story about Sarah and Christmas? Here's what happened next. After 3 months of silence, her mother called and said something unexpected. "I've been thinking about what you did, and maybe I need to learn how to spend holidays alone too." Sarah's choice to be real didn't just free herself, it gave her mother permission to be real too. That's the power of individuation. When you become who you really are, you give others permission to do the same. Not everyone will take that permission. Some people are too scared, but the ones who do will become your real family. The people who love you for who you actually are, not who you pretend to be. If this resonates with you, if you feel thin by this video, leave a comment that says, "I choose to be real." Because recognition is the first step toward freedom. And freedom is your birthright, not something you have to earn by being perfect. Machiavelli wrote that men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. People will respect your boundaries more than they'll respect your people-pleasing. They'll admire your authenticity more than they'll appreciate your fake agreeableness. But you have to be brave enough to show them who you really are. Your relationships are not supposed to require you to shrink. Your family is not supposed to need you to stay small to feel comfortable. Your friends are not supposed to punish you for growing. And if they do, Jung would tell you that's information about them, not about you. Here's a shot of your permission slip. You have the right to change your mind, even if others don't like it. You have the right to grow, even if it makes others uncomfortable. You have the right to choose yourself, even if others call it selfish. Your evolution is not a betrayal of anyone except the false version of yourself that was never real anyway. The idea that was erased from history is this: you don't owe anyone a false version of yourself. You don't owe anyone your smallness. You don't owe anyone your silence. And you definitely don't owe anyone an explanation for becoming who you were always meant to be. If you're ready to start this journey of becoming impossible to control, subscribe to this channel, because we're building a community of people who choose authenticity over approval, truth over comfort, and freedom over fake peace. Hit that notification bell, because your journey to psychological freedom is just beginning. The world needs more people who are brave enough to be real. The world needs more people who refuse to be controlled by others' emotions. The world needs more people like you, exactly as you are, shadow and light, perfectly imperfect and beautifully authentic. Jung believed that the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. Machiavelli knew that freedom requires courage. And you now know that being yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Not just for you, but for everyone whose life you touch. So here's my question for you. Are you ready to become impossible to control? Are you ready to disappoint the people who need you to stay small? Are you ready to discover who you really are when you stop pretending to be who everyone else wants? The choice is yours. It always has been. But now you know that choosing yourself isn't wrong. It's the most right thing you can do. Welcome to your new life. Welcome to being real.